Welcome to a new style video, and this style of video is going to be about me teaching you random things that I've been learning recently, because I'm always learning to do with business and sales, marketing, team stuff, and I thought, well, I always want to retain the information that I'm learning to a higher degree, so why don't I just teach, because that's one of the best ways of retaining the information that you learn. And so I'm going to sit here, talk you through all of the cool things that I learned, which I was watching a coaching call from a program that I'm in, that I invested $30,000 into for leadership. And I'm going to be teaching you the frameworks that we already use, the ones we're going to be adding, and really just solidifying them for myself. But hopefully you can get some good takeaways as well that you can implement into your business if you have a team or you want a team. So I really recommend watching if that is something that you are interested in, want to get better at, and know that for you to achieve your goals in business, you need to be a good leader. And I'm working towards becoming a better leader every single day. And so we can go through some cool stuff that I've learned recently right now. So we're going to jump into the iPad. All right, so I've got the iPad here and I've got the MacBook here, and we're going to be able to go through some of the key concepts that I learned. So the first one, I loved this one, and it was the definition of a problem. And I think this is really handy to teach to your team, but also for yourself when you are faced with problems. Because right now, before I watch this video, what would I think the definition of a problem was? It's probably going to be something along the lines of something that isn't optimal, or something that has great improvements, or something that is declining or isn't where it should be. Now, they're all probably reasonable definitions for a problem, but I really love this one that I heard in the coaching call. So a problem is, and share this with your team, is that we are here, and I'm going to call this point A, and we need to get to here, which is desired outcome, and this is going to be point B. So we've got point A, currently where we are, point B, where we want to get to. And this line here is the problem. And that makes it really easy for your team to define the problems and then also come up with solutions. So a solution is, and again, this is a really great definition for you to have, is how do we get from point A to point B? That is a solution. And so anytime you're coming up with solutions, or your team's coming up with solutions, you can think, okay, how can I get from this situation to this situation? It's really easy to then come up with solutions from there, because you have it well defined of where you're currently at, where you want to get to. So I really loved that, so the definition of a problem. So make sure you take that away. And then it leads me into a framework that we've been using internally practically since we've ever had a team, from the very, very start, which is the 1-3-1 framework. So now we have a problem defined, we have a solution defined and what they are. So now it's like, when our team have a problem, how do we want them to act? As you follow the 1-3-1 rule. So you've got one problem, and when you're bringing on new team members, and if you do an onboarding call with your team members, which you should, tell them about the 1-3-1 rule. Because proactive problem solving is one of our core values at the company. And so it's a really tangible way for them to go, how can I be a proactive problem solver? Well, you can follow the 1-3-1 rule anytime that you have a problem. So you've got one problem. I want you as a team member to come up with 3 solutions. And so the 3 solutions, well, what's the solution? 3 things of how we get from point A, which is where we're currently at, to point B, which is the desired situation. And then the final one is, which out of these 3 solutions we've got here is your favorite? And so this really gets your team critically thinking, and I found it great. And you really know when someone's an A player when in their first 2-3 weeks, and then obviously going forward, they follow the 1-3-1 rule. And this allows them to develop a critical thinking ability, which if they want to become a manager or a leader of their own team in the future, they need to develop. And so it's a great way of, with your A players, going, if you follow this, it's going to allow me to have more faith in you and your decision making, so that I can hand more stuff over to you in the future, which is going to allow you to grow in the company, which means you can provide more value. And then value, so revenue and profit increase is practically what value would mean. So you providing more value means you can get pay increase. So you can literally go, if you follow this framework, which we've mapped out here, the 1-3-1 framework, then you are going to be able to have a bigger impact on the company, and then impact your wages and your salaries and your career path to a higher degree, and which is typically what every single A player will want. So it's a really great framework to implement and mention it in your onboarding call with your new team members. So then it's like, okay, we've got our 3 solutions, but then it's like, how do we pick that one favorite? And I loved this. This is from the, so this is a framework I already had, but this new one of how you pick your favorite solution out of the 3 you've come up with is great. And it's called ICE. I'm going to try and remember them off the top of my head. I believe it's impact, effort, And oh yes, I've got it. Confidence. Boom. So ICE, impact, confidence, and effort. So then what do I mean by impact? Well, impact is going to be in relation to, one, money. So what's the monetary impact? How much does it cost to do this solution? And then also impact on the business. So for example, does it impact another department? So let's think about, okay, so we have the problem of our Google Ads department isn't working as well as our Facebook Ads department in our agency, for example. That's not a problem we currently have, but let's say it was. Now, if one of the solutions was, okay, well, let's take our best marketer from our Facebook team and let's get them to come and help us on the Google side. Okay, so that is the solution of how we would get from, again, if we go up here, from point A to point B. That could work because bringing in the best marketer from the Facebook, they could have some really great ideas which would help with Google. But then there's going to be an impact on another section of the business, which is that Facebook's probably going to go down at that point, so we've caused an impact somewhere else in the business that is not desirable. So you have to analyze the impact on the money and just the general business as well, because when you put resources into somewhere, there's always an opportunity cost. And so if you're moving team members around, for example, that can have an impact on one department going up, but the other department going down, which is not what you want. You want everything to be going up, or this one staying stable, and then this one coming up. So that's that one. Then you've got confidence. So confidence is, I've got these three solutions. Which one of them am I most confident is going to give me the desired outcome? So let's take that example I was talking about a second ago. So you've got one solution, which is, okay, let's bring a Facebook person into the Google department. Another one would be, let's hire a marketing company to do it for us. And another one would be, let's hire a coach to come into the business and train our team on how to be better. So confidence, probably my number one with that would be hire a marketing company to do it for you. And then my second one would probably be getting a coaching program to then train up my current team, because I'd have got a lot of confidence that someone who's previously run ads before and successfully for Google would be good at doing that for my business. So that would give me a lot of confidence by doing that. And so we look at that and we would base that very much off being quite subjective, to be honest, in my opinion. Your levels of confidence. Obviously, you can look at metrics and data, but you're going to have to analyze also what you're feeling. And also when you're making decisions, a little side note, I always like to listen to my gut when I'm making decisions with, there's like something to do with your gut is one of the few organs that has like a direct, it's like something like this, genuinely a gut feeling. If you look into it, I can't remember off the top of my head, but a gut feeling is genuinely a thing. And so when you're making decisions based off, and you're not really sure which one to go for, every option seems good, listen to your gut is practically the takeaway. And then the final one is effort. And so this is when time comes in. So for example, if I go back to those three solutions that we had for our Google Ads aren't working, how do we fix it? The one that's going to require the least effort is hiring a marketing company, because we're just going to hire them, pay them on time, join an onboarding call, fill in a form, and then it should be practically done. Maybe add a few meetings from there. So that's the lowest effort. Also, I'd have quite a lot of confidence in that. But the impact side is probably where the hiring a marketing company is has the highest impact, because it's going to cost more money. To get someone to literally do it for you is going to cost more money. So again, this is why this ICE framework works really well, because each one is going to have different positives and negatives. And so depending on what stage you're at in business, some massive corporations, they just want to pay the money because they've got infinite amount of money. Whereas if you're a brand new starting business, maybe you might not want to do that. Depends. So that is the ICE framework. So remember that when you are making decisions, you're choosing which solution to go for once you follow the 1-3-1 rule. Share this with your team. It's going to be super beneficial. Cool. Then let's go through this as the final point. I've got a few more, but I'll probably do that in a different video. So the next one is building systems. So to give you an example, let's say we're building the daily workflow for our calling team, because we have right now a 9-person calling team of people that call our clients leads. That's all internal. We're doing it all ourselves. And so let's imagine you're building the system of the daily workflow that your calling team are going to follow. When you're building this, you want to look at it as this is the baseline that all team members fall to. You don't want to build your systems around your what we call gold medalists or A players, because the problem is that might make them perform really high, but the other team, it may not be compatible with them, your average. So what you want to do is you want to have your systems raise your team's minimum standard by giving them the systems of, okay, you do this when you check in, you do this at the middle of the day, you do this at the end of the day. That's how you raise them at the minimum. And then your A players from there, let's imagine that this is a climbing thing. If they've got their platform, they're going to be able to climb up. They're going to use ropes. They're going to be able to climb a rock, and so they're going to be able to go higher than everyone else. But the problem is that, let's say you built your systems for you. Everyone else is here, but the A player, you built the systems around them, is going to be up here. And this is where you're going to get your A player to, but everyone else isn't going to have any sort of support with the systems that you're using. So that's don't build your systems around your best team member, because the others won't be able to keep up, which is interesting. And the thing is as well, what came to my mind when I listened to this, but the guy literally pre-handled my question, is, okay, but then why don't you just hire more A players? The thing is that if everyone on your team is an A player, one of them will be an A star. And so they will still be above the rest of the pack. So even though everyone is really good, you still want to build it based off your standard people, because there's always going to be anomalies. There's always going to be people that just genetically are better, or they've got more education, they have more experience. So even if you have a team of A's, there's always going to be an A star or an 8-star. And I'm going to leave it there. Some good actionable steps on leadership, building systems that you can implement that I learned from listening to a really great coaching call. And if you have any questions, please drop them below. Hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much.